Fumblers, and welcome to another episode of the Film Fumblers podcast. Today, we are going to be reviewing the movie Oldboy, released in 2003 and directed by Chan-wook. So without further ado, my name's Adrian.
I'm Jay.
I'm Taryn.
And I'm James, but specifically today we have a special guest with us, Alonso, a friend and partner in our endeavors here. So welcome to the show, Alonso. We're excited to have you here.
My dudes, I am super stoked to talk about this movie. I can't wait. I'm dying to know what your opinions are. I don't even know what I thought maybe this movie would just completely freak you guys out. It's really out there and intense, and so I'm just curious, man. I want to sit back and listen to some extent.
Yeah, no, I mean, opening thoughts. I don't know. This movie just right out of the gate just did it for me. Like just the opening music, how you just feel right away. It's different. It's weird. It's what is it considered a neo-noir South Korean film, and first one that I've seen, but I'm about it. Oh wait, before we get too much into this conversation, who has a shot ready?
Ready.
We need to get into this.
I've got a little sake here.
Shooter.
Nice.
Cheers.
Like a little
Cheers.
How could I forget?
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Oh, I can't open it. No.
Yeah, this is the lone chipped sake glass I have, so
Yeah.
all about
Nice.
that.
I was gonna introduce myself in Korean, but I didn't want to embarrass myself because me and Taryn here actually took a couple semesters of Korean.
Damn,
Yeah, dude.
that's cool.
Did you do Japanese
I didn't know
too?
I did way more Japanese than that, but yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But,
So were you able to understand even little pieces of it, or where were you at with that?
there's definitely some words that you always hear in like Korean K-pop songs and stuff. You hear
사랑해.
Oh yeah.
It's like
That makes sense.
저기요 or like 괜찮아 or like something like just like those are like just different words that you're just very common in that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
do you guys listen?
K-pop?
Yeah.
what's that?
Said you know a thing or two about K-pop, right?
No, just
No, but no, wait, hold on. We have to go down this route.
No.
Do you guys? I don't know. Like, are you guys fans of K-pop? I know nothing.
K-pop took over the lives of our group of friends for probably about 6 years. I feel like maybe not that long.
6 years. Holy
not
shit.
that long. It was
At least
maybe
3 years.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a long time.
It was an obsession.
Holy shit.
At first it was an obsession, now it's just like, oh, it's just another genre of music I like. It's just there.
Wow, this is like you guys are in mass coming out. I just had no idea.
we are. Oh my god.
Holy Jesus, I had no idea. This is not something
yeah.
I knew anything about.
That's
Wow.
funny.
It was bad enough that I actually went to California and went to a K-pop concert. So
Wow.
I actually
I'm so
saw
jealous.
some of our favorite girl
Dedication.
groups live.
He also cried at the concert. I'm pretty sure.
But it was not
That's
Yeah.
amazing, man.
what's happening.
It was one of those things for me where I listened to it like as a joke because, or not, I like, it was satirical listening to it like around them because they were so into it. And then it also just took over and I was like, this is the thing that I enjoyed too.
Yeah, and once Adrian started getting into it, I was like, holy shit, it's actually this is, like poisoning people's minds because he was like
Wow.
he's like, no.
Yeah.
But anyways.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
To
That's
be
awesome.
fair, I never got into
Jay
it that
never
much,
got
but I know all the fucking songs because I've heard them so many times.
Yeah.
Just
That was
by
like our party
proxy.
music.
Yeah,
Just by
Yeah.
proxy.
there is a lot of really good songs. Like I like more of the boys groups.
The
Is that
rappers.
weird to say? But like
The
there's
top ones, yeah.
there's really cool shit.
Wow. Okay.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
this is just
He never got into it, but he also has a preference on what type of
Also, yeah. Also, I like boys, like acoustic K-pop.
Yeah, there's a good
more contemporary.
Really that out there.
Kind of more
Have it bookmarked.
mid 70s, psychedelic boys
Yeah.
K-pop. Yeah.
All right, so let's take it a little bit back more to Oldboy, neo noir Korean film. How many of us was this our first watch? This was my first watch. I just watched it yesterday.
Mine as well.
Yeah, same here.
First watch from Jay and Taryn. James, had you seen this before?
Yeah, I've seen it about 3 times.
Oh, interesting. And Alonso, I know you have seen this before.
I don't know. Maybe I've seen it 10 or more times. I saw it in the theater. I saw it in the
10?
theater. Yeah, this is like one of my favorite movies. So just
Oh.
that's
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, this was
Yeah,
like the movie. He was like, "If you guys do it, please let me be on it." I'm like, "All right, we're
Yeah.
fucking
Wow.
doing it."
So
yeah,
all
like
of-
yeah.
All
No,
of our
so don't-
guests are gonna rate it this be like 10 ratings.
No,
for-
I don't give. I don't give. I don't. No, no. I don't give anything a 10. That's just
Yeah.
not the way I work. But
my guy.
yeah, we don't just give 10s. But I watched this movie the first time I watched this movie was so like it won the Palme d'Or or it won like some award at Cannes when it around the time it came out.
Uh-huh.
And so then it got an American release, and I'd read a lot about it. Again, this is before Netflix. This is before all this shit. This is like 2003. I read a lot about it, and then they had a limited run of it at the Ritz on Second Street in Philly. And in Philly, like they have they at least they had back in the day like 3 Ritz theaters. So like you could usually catch like an indie flick that like got an award or like a foreign flick that had an American appeal. I went into it. I read about it. I read that it was like supposed to be like intense or whatever. I knew nothing about it though. I didn't know anything about the plot.
Yeah.
It was the first Korean movie I'd ever watched. Okay.
Nice.
So and I remember sitting down and it's funny what you were saying, Adrian, about like just like right from the get-go, right? Like I sat down, the movie comes on, and Odaisu like he's in the like basically like the drunk tank, right? Like
Yep.
Yeah.
with a bloody nose and just making an ass of himself, right? And like
Mhm.
immediately you're like, okay, who the fuck is this guy? What is the deal? Like what's going on? Then he shows like the wings, right? Like his like the wings that he bought like for his daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
And just it never stops. Like there's never a moment where you're just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm bored, or it just right from the rip. There's like mystery, and
Yeah,
then
something's weird
just
about it.
go.
It's like such an interesting way to start off a movie, like
Right.
where you have
Yeah.
the supposed hero like being like an asshole and like just being belligerent, and it's just like such an interesting way to like try to win you over right away. It's
Mhm.
like weird. You're like, what's going
Well,
on
it's interesting too. He describes that his name, what does it mean? Like everyday man, something like that. Like just the very so you're introduced to what we can assume is going to be the hero, but also he is in this point where he's a drunk. He has maybe issues with his wife. Not, obviously who wouldn't, what kind of wife would want their, husband to be drunk on their daughter's birthday? But he's just this simple everyday man. And yeah, again, right away, once he's like he just gets kidnapped instantly right after he gets out of the drunk tank, and then it does not lose pacing from there.
Yeah.
It keeps going straight into everything.
Yeah, what I really liked about the intro scene is, and I've seen this in a couple of movies, but it's not too common. But they do like the really quick cuts, but it leaves the audio either before or after the clip.
Yeah, the jump cuts.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
love
that
those.
so like that's another thing, right? It's like okay, and this is like more like film, like cinema geek type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like when you watch a movie and they can pull off a jump cut, right? Which a jump cut is like basically no context, cut right in the middle, cut audio, and like you're just moving directly to the next thing that may or may not have anything to do with the previous thing, right? That's really hard to pull off in a way that like the audience like understands and like makes sense, right? It's like
Yeah.
and he in that opening scene, there's a bunch of jump cuts where like he's in the middle of like flipping the fuck out. He's like rolling on the ground or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Jump cut to like him like having his like arm like like chained up to like the bench or whatever, and it's like it's like okay, he's pissing people off. He's
Right.
annoying people. He's making a fucking scene. Like, and in a second, it's communicated that there was a bunch of time in,
Passed.
that he was
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like right from the rip, like you already know, okay, so this is a fucking filmmaker. This is like somebody that knows actually how to make a movie. Because that's like some advanced shit. Like you don't just see like jump cuts like randomly like that and it works, right?
Yeah, there was no jump cuts in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
All right.
What a shame. What a shame.
And that's something that happens later on too. Just with you talk about the time sequence in just when he's in the drunk tank, but when he's captured in the hotel room prison, they do such a good job at showing time passing in
Yeah.
just this way that feels really natural and organic, but you can also feel like the hardships that Daesu had went through.
Yeah, 15 years, right? Like, so how do you
Right.
edit
Yeah.
15? How do you edit 15 years, like somebody being in the same room, imprisoned, essentially?
Mhm.
How do you edit it in a way that, like, within a few minutes, like you're telling the audience, like, okay, this dude is insane, right? He's insane.
Mhm.
He's been driven insane,
Yeah.
right? He's tried to kill himself. He doesn't know like what happened. There's little bits of information he gets from the TV, right? And it sets you up for the whole rest of the movie. What, like that whole sequence is what, like 10 minutes maybe?
Yeah. I think the TV is a big part of it. Like that's how they get away with showing the passage of time. Like you just show the events that kind of occurred in that time. Which is
Yeah.
interesting that 9/11 happened after this movie or before this movie came out. So
Yeah.
that was part of the sequence.
Right.
And I may have
Oh, right.
watched it on 9/11. What's today? 12th? No, I didn't.
Oh.
But it was close, right?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of
I
an
did see that,
interesting
yeah.
thing.
Huh.
But yeah, I think the TV is a big part, and then they incorporated like those all the tattoos and stuff that he started doing. But the showing of passing of time is like a thing that happens a lot in this movie,
Yeah.
and the time can range. It can be years, it can be like minutes, and it can be like an unknown amount of time. But they do a really good job of communicating that, I think.
So many times that in this movie that there's like some real, like I said, like cinema shit going on, like some advanced shit. And like not to jump too far ahead, but like one of the first scenes where you meet like Mido, um, she's she's telling Odesu about this like dream that she had where she saw an ant. Like, do you
Mm.
guys remember that? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
and she
you know
talks
how
about it. It's a sign of loneliness.
he hallucinates the ants, right? And then she
Yeah.
has this dream of ants, right? And then like she's she's kind of trying to explain that she's lonely and that she's heard that like people that think
Yeah.
about that, right? And like there's a shot, right? It's like her head. It's like kind of close up, right? Her head. And this, I don't know if you guys remember this, like the subway car, it like comes out of the corner of the screen and like
Yeah.
overtakes the screen. I remember seeing that in the theater
Wow.
and just being like, I have never seen that before. What the fuck was that?
Yeah,
So
I
was it like a
noticed that.
zoom? Was it like a zoom out? Like it was
It
like
was no, it
fading
was
It
like
was like
it was
transition.
it was
It was
like
like a
the
transition, but it like
Oh, it was like
morphed. It like
oh, it was like a
it
morph.
didn't look stupid. It was like
it didn't look
it
stupid,
was
exactly.
crazy. It looked
It like
like really cool.
it's like extreme close up and then in the corner you see like a subway car
Mm-hmm.
and then it like races and it like overtakes the foreground
Okay.
and
Oh.
yeah, it's like
Which probably worked really good because like that was like her kind of hallucination. So it like almost like the train was following her brain, like it went into her
Yeah.
brain, and it
yes.
showed you exactly what she was like hallucinating.
Well, and the shot itself like meshes the reality and the like,
Okay, yeah.
dream or whatever together.
And
Oh, right,
like
because after that it goes to where it shows her see the ant in the subway, right, or in the train,
Yeah.
sitting the human-sized ant. Yeah.
and
Ooh,
so
I didn't
like
catch
okay,
that.
I think what's even cooler about that is that you guys didn't notice like or at least some of you guys did notice that, which
Mhm.
actually is to me like even a cooler thing, right? Because it was like
Yeah.
so like
It was
wasn't
subtle.
exactly. It was so like seamless, right?
Right.
That you don't really think about it twice. Like I've seen the movie a bunch of times. I remember seeing that and just being like, I've never seen that before in a movie. Like
Yeah,
I've never
and
whatever
that's
that is, I've never seen it.
like
Yeah.
you wouldn't think that this movie is super rewatchable just because it's so fucking intense, but like those little subtleties like make it that way. Like I hadn't watched this movie in probably probably like 5 years, maybe.
Wow.
And it was pretty fresh for me again.
Dude, if you want to make this movie rewatchable, here's another one. Here's another thing to do. You could even make it a drinking game.
Okay.
Is,
I'm
how
interested.
many?
Okay.
How many?
Yeah, we're interested.
How many? Yeah, it's like everyone's like, what? But catch every time you see the main bad guy, right? Like the guy that we find out is the one pulling all the strings
Right.
in the scenes, like secretly or surreptitiously. Because there's a
Oh, is he
whole
really?
there's a whole bunch of those. If you
Oof.
rewatch, there's a whole bunch. Like there's a scene in the internet cafe early on when you've never seen the guy, and like he's like on one of the computers, right? Like
Oh, that's so good.
it's just
Oh
like,
man.
dude, there's just little geek shit like that where it's very rewatchable. Trust me,
Yeah, I bet
very,
the
very
second
rewatchable.
watch is very different than the first one, and like you still probably get just as much out of it. I want to
Yeah,
watch it
because
again.
once like the big reveal, like you can never really forget that. But
Yeah.
like all
You
the
can see how
Right.
it plays into the rest of it. It's so
nuances,
cool.
yeah.
It always
Yeah.
seems like those little details that separate like a crazy, interesting movie from a generic movie are so
Yeah.
small and almost obvious, but like
Mhm.
when they're there, it just makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's weird
And
to like compare. I don't want to compare it to Parasite just because they're both Korean, but like they feel very similar in that way where both are super fucking artistic, but like it has a plot and stuff that can appeal to like a mass audience, I believe. It's like
yeah,
it's really twisty. It's really like easy to follow.
it's super watchable. Like it's
Yeah,
like
it's
I don't
really
know how else to say
watchable.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
Agreed,
like why
100%.
they were like, "Hey, we should make this in English. People are gonna love this shit." You know what I mean?
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
does that translate to 2003? Given like the subject matter that's like presented? Do you know what I mean? Like, how was when you went to see it when it was
Yeah.
released?
Yeah.
Was the vibe like that's disgusting, or you know what I mean? Like,
Like,
what
do you mean
was
like the twist or what?
the
Like in the
twist, the whole
audience?
like the
Yeah.
big,
Oh, yeah.
big theme
I
of the
mean,
movie?
okay, so again, I didn't know anything about the plot. The Ritz theaters are not big. Like the theaters themselves are like pretty small. So like you're talking max, like it's like the Guild, bigger
Yeah.
screen than
Right.
the Guild, but it's like same like amount of like people, let's say, for every
Yeah.
theater. And
Yeah.
like there was one Ritz that had 3 theaters, there was another that had 2. So like it wasn't um I was surprised. Yeah, I was taken back. I was like it was like an interesting revenge movie,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
that happened, and then it's like, okay, this is the most interesting revenge
Yeah,
movie of
It's
all
yeah,
time.
it is literally like a double fold revenge movie. It's just like, wait, who the fuck is revenging who? Like it's just
Right.
like, hold on.
So I think, and in the audience, I definitely heard some like audible like what?
Yeah.
Like especially like when he's because he opens the box and he's like flipping through again. Sorry to jump ahead. He's opened the
That's
box.
okay.
He's flipping through the photo album, and you
Yeah.
start realizing,
Yeah.
Just like,
and
oh
he starts
no.
realizing,
Right.
right? And you're just like, like you're just like completely frozen.
Yeah.
So
I watched this movie alone in my living room and I audibly said, "No way."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Just
Um,
like, please no.
my wife says that we watched this movie because we saw some like YouTube compilation of like what's the most messed up movies like, and this was like number 1 or something, and
Oh my
so we were
God.
like, okay, let's watch it.
Yeah, I don't think it's the most messed up movie, but like, and I mean, what I guess all that to say, Jay, that like I don't know that the audience there was representative of anything like mainstream. Like
Sure.
the reality
Yeah,
is
they
there's a
wouldn't
bunch
have
of
been there, right?
They
it's a
wouldn't be
bunch
at
of
the
people like
Guild
me.
probably either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people like me that were there. And so like spoiler, I guess secret like secret incest twist. Like
Yeah.
it's not gonna like
Oh.
make me like go like I don't know like lose my shit or something or walk out of the
Yeah.
theater.
10
Sure.
Hail
Um,
Marys,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
whatever you call them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like why I wonder if it would do better nowadays, or if people would still be like, has that thinking changed? Are people more open to weird shit like that? I don't
I
know.
think, and that's the thing. Okay, so like I've always said about like how like shock value for nothing. Like this is shock value with like so much
For
value in the
everything.
shock.
A lot of weight.
Like,
the whole
this isn't shock value for the sake of it. This is has so much like weight behind everything else that came. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
talk about Midsummer. Like I don't really care about the shock in that movie because it just doesn't feel like it has weight within the entirety of the story. It's just a once in a moment thing. Whereas this holds weight through the entire story and it makes you fucked up after forever.
Like, see, yeah, no, 100% agree
Yeah.
that it doesn't come off as like, I don't think anyone could think it's gratuitous,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Gross
don't think
to be
like
gross, right?
the
It's not
movie,
that.
the movie earned that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
Set up so
Well, and
well.
what was beautifully done was that I wasn't really expecting a twist. Like you knew that Dae-soo had done something to Lee Woo-jin that pissed him off, but
Yeah.
like the whole time you're trying to discover it, just like Dae-soo is, but nowhere in there I was like, there's got to be some kind of twist. There's a lot of movies that you watch that you're just like, okay, where's the twist? Where's it going to kind of try to take me for a loop? And this one I wasn't expecting anything like that to kind of come, which I guess
it
is
was
just
it was
a
it was
testament to how
shocking.
great
It
it
was
was.
shocking to me, but it was like the kind of shocking where like it was shocking. You absorb the shock, and then you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I see how that makes sense because he, Odesu like caught, you know, um,
Lee
brother and
Woo-jin,
sister,
yeah,
got brother and sister, having sex or doing something sexual.
incestuous
Yeah, and yeah,
Something
and
it
so that would be,
encounter.
that would be the perfect revenge. And do you know what? Do you know what's
Right.
great about that scene? Right? Okay, so like that happens. He offers up his tongue, right?
Right.
Because that's all he can. He's just like desperate, like to just like show him how sorry he is, right? He
Right.
offers up his tongue, which is like a reference to like the Greek Oedipus
Oedipus.
Rex, right, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Oedipus offers up his eyes. Okay.
Mhm.
Afterwards, right? He gives him he gives him the little like whatever the remote switch for his like the motor on his
Little
yeah.
pacemaker,
key fob
right?
thing that yeah.
And yeah, and he's like, okay, yeah. So and he calls off the other guy to not show her the box, right? So she doesn't know, right? That's his like generosity after he like, he's offers the tongue and says he's sorry or whatever.
Right.
And then as a final extra bonus, fuck you,
Yeah.
right? That remote,
Ugh.
it doesn't turn off his heart. It turns on the tape of Odesu fucking his daughter
Yeah.
Right.
at full blast volume.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, when I heard that, I was like, oh my god, this is the best revenge movie. I've never seen a better revenge
It's
movie.
yeah.
Fuck. Like,
Yeah.
god
When
damn,
I
that was just operatic.
when I saw, because that whole scene of him, picking up the pacemaker remote, or what you think is that, like when he
Yeah.
picks it up, you realize like, yeah, that's not what this fucking is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't know what it is, and then
Yeah.
when
You
it
don't know
shows
what
what
it
it is, it's like, holy fuck.
Right.
And
Yeah.
before that scene, I was like, he was respectful in telling the dude not to open the box for his daughter. Like,
Yeah.
that's an interesting switch. We're not used to that in America. In America, you just,
Yeah.
you would just
I was
be
fully
aware of the
prepared to
motherfucker.
say open the box.
Yeah,
Fully
exactly.
prepared for it.
And then like kill
Yeah.
him too, just to, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it didn't happen, I was like, dang, okay, respect. That's interesting. But then
Yeah.
that happened with the tape playing full volume, and I was like, maybe this is worse. I don't know.
Dude,
This is
yeah, I
really
thought
brutal.
I thought the remote was gonna do something to the daughter, like in that room. I was like, maybe the box is gonna fucking blow up or something.
Yeah, you could have
But I was like,
guessed like a million things,
yeah,
but that was not
the
one of
most
them.
sinister
Yeah.
result
Not only was
you
it
could
like
think
nothing
of.
you would, not only was it nothing you would have guessed, it was also the worst thing he could have done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is there a worse
so
thing he could
brutal.
have done?
So the beautiful thing about that scene too is it makes a huge statement about revenge and about vengeance and just that it's not fulfilling. So Lee Woo-jin gets his revenge. I mean, this was the long con. Like
The
he
longest con.
literally created
Literally
an
15 years in the making.
an empire, and he's filthy fucking rich, can afford a private prison for 15 years to which now we find out why it's 15 years, to give enough time for Dae-soo to be away from his daughter for long enough for him
Yeah.
to not remember who she is and for her to become an adult.
Yeah.
And then to put them together, and so he get everything aligns perfectly. Everything that Lee Woo-jin wanted happens, and 35 seconds after he enacts his revenge, he blows his brains out
Yeah.
because that's
So
how toxic revenge is.
Mm-hmm.
that scene, I will not front. That scene where he's remembering, he's in the elevator and he's remembering what happened with his sister.
Mm-hmm.
That scene, I almost cried. That and it's like it's so intense, right? And it's like the whole thing that he's been trying to do,
Yeah.
it sort of pays off, and then you empathize with him, like losing his sister and all this stuff, and then pow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he
And
blows
then
his head off
and
in
then
the elevator.
what does he say before what does he tell him? He's like, I just hope that you could love your daughter like me and my sister loved each other, something like
Dude,
that.
this was
It's just
that
like,
that
oh,
thing that he says is so fucked up. It's like so fucked up. It's like he's
yeah.
saying, look, me and my sister, we knew what we were
We,
doing,
yeah.
Right.
right? And
But
we
we
still
still
loved
loved
each
each
other,
other. Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
knew what we were doing. I hope you can do the same.
Yeah.
Which
Which is
just
Oh,
interesting
man.
because the most disturbing part of the whole movie for me is the final scene when he's
Yeah.
when he goes to
Oh,
get his brainwashed and then he
Hypnotized.
continues he gets hypnotized and then he chooses. I mean, he basically chose before he got hypnotized. He could have been hypnotized and not gone back in that relationship, but he
Yeah.
does, right? It leaves it up to interpretation,
There's
and I think
so
he's still
much.
fucking his daughter, right?
he's totally.
But they don't know,
Look,
right?
I know it leaves it up to interpretation,
Yeah.
but I agree 100%, James. Like
I
that
think
smile, that he does that smile in the movie like
Yeah.
3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And you know that that's that fake smile that he does when he needs to do it, but like he's like in
Oh,
hell. Like, cause like
yeah.
remember, like there was that line that they keep repeating, right? It's like weep, what was it? Weep and everyone,
Yeah,
um,
laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep
right?
and weep alone.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so, and there are multiple times in the movie, like there was a part where Mido gets like, kidnapped by like these guys that run the prison, right? And like they're
Mhm.
about like, they're like he's about to like torture him the same way he got tortured with like the hammer and like removing the
Ripping his
teeth and all
teeth
that,
out. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like he wants this the prison guy wants Odesu to be scared, and Odesu smiles and starts like laughing maniacally to
Yeah.
show him that he's not scared, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, like that's definitely a callback to, and that happens on multiple occasions. Like that's definitely a callback to where he's like initiating that laugh because he feels like he needs to, right? But it's
Yeah.
not genuine.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
My opinion.
See, I
Interesting.
took it as like when he gets hypnotized and then they split him, like the monster and Odesu.
Right.
Oh, I
I
forgot
took it
about
as
that.
like that's a hint of the monster coming out. Like he wasn't actually split, even
Mm.
though they tried to make it
Repressing,
happen.
and he's just repressing
Yeah.
it.
And then because it happens and then it goes away. And so
Mhm.
I was like, that was interesting. That's a kind of a weird thing. Because then, when they get out of the hypnotize thing and Midu comes and finds him, there's footprints in the snow, but like you're not sure if like that was the hypnotist or was that the monster or
It
was
looks like it's only
what could
one
that have
set.
been?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my
and
god.
that brings up the conversation, was the hypnotist even there? Did he actually get hypnotized? And the hypnotist even said, this may not work. This may fuck up your memories, essentially.
Yeah.
I like to read that, like for me, I like to read that pretty straight, just because I think the rest of the movie you read pretty straight, right? Like there's not a lot of like this didn't happen or it did happen stuff. The whole rest of the movie, right? Like
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
actually lays out the plot kind of straightforward. You might miss things, right?
Right.
If you don't pay attention, but it actually lays out like exactly what happens in a pretty straightforward way. And so like to me, like I try to read that as like he went to the hypnotist did her thing. He met Mido, and then and then they kind of whatever reunite, and then the movie ends, right? And that's open to interpretation. I don't feel like it's a movie that tries to be cagey with like presenting reality
Whether she
for the
was
most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm in the same exact boat as you, Alonso. Like when it ended, I was just like, he erased like the memories of knowing who she is, but then it's like it just leaves it on the audience to be like, is this fucked up or not? Like that's what you're left with. Like, is this bad? Like,
Well,
because
I
in a way
see,
it's
like,
not, because they don't know, right? I don't know.
that's what's so
But he
complex
was the
about
only
it.
one that got hypnotized, right?
But
At
she
the
didn't know.
end.
I mean, she doesn't know
She
who he
didn't know.
is.
She
So
never knew.
now he doesn't know
She
who she is.
she worked. She also worked for man, I butcher the fucking guy's name. The main bad guy,
Lee Woo-jin.
Lee Woo-jin. She works for him, right? She's the one that does the hypnosis on Odesu right when they're about to release him. She's the one that does hypnosis on Mido, right? So like, to me, like, she works for him. She could have like fucked things up on purpose.
Yeah.
There's any number of
Right.
like.
But I feel like that didn't happen because like Jay said earlier, there's a little bit of honor and Woojin was like, hey, you have what was it, 48 hours something to figure out why I'm doing this and why I
5
released you.
days.
Five
Yeah.
Was it
days.
5 days? Yeah, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
getting
It's all good.
You're getting the
but
Spike Lee one.
yeah,
The Spike Lee one he has like
yeah,
Spike Lee one he
28
has 2
hours.
days.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of honor and respect there. There's a little pull and play. So like, give some, take some, and I don't think she was malicious there at the end.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know,
That's
but
it,
I
yeah.
think also there was some sincerity in like she's like, this might not work. Like this isn't an exact science, right? So
Yeah.
to take it to that very end scene where he has that smile where he's embracing Midu, his daughter, he has that smile and it turns into this face of like panic or like just like fuck, like he doesn't, so I think the smile is, I mean, he's been in isolation for 15 years. He hasn't had anyone that he could really love and connect with. So it's like, yeah, he still gets to see his daughter, but like maybe he still kind of does know. And that's what's so beautiful is it intentionally leaves that for interpretation to build
Yeah,
conversation
I
on.
think I think that to me, like, any of these interpretations are like fair.
Right.
I don't think, and honestly, like, it is interesting because like I think in American cinema, right, like there's this race to figure out, well, what actually happened, like,
Mhm.
always, right?
Yeah.
Like when I watch movies with my wife, she's always trying to figure out what's happened. Like she's always like, oh, okay, wait, what just happened? And the thing that's interesting for me is like I don't watch movies that way, right? Like if I don't get it right there and then,
Let it play
like,
out.
Yeah.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
Like we'll watch we'll keep watching, and then like generally the movie reveals its cards, right? Like at the towards the end or a little bit later. I don't
Yeah.
need to know, and so like for me, like it's actually kind of irrelevant, like how it actually plays out at the end. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that smile is like a callback to some earlier stuff, but who the fuck cares? Like at
But
the
the
end of the
smile
day,
visibly changes to
right? To like this repressed, like,
of distraught. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's
think
fucked.
something that I thought was really interesting, like, and it kind of qualifies like the straightforwardness of the rest of the movie. When he's, they're kind of explaining or showing and telling you through the like high school days where Daesu is there both as his current self and his past self, which is a really interesting scene.
Those are so
But
fun.
It was
when
fun.
they were going through
Yeah.
that, like Lee Woo Jin, because he had been hypnotized at this point, he had been all these things, and there's like there's questions of like, how do you think that Daesu doesn't remember this? And Lee Woo Jin is just like, you don't remember because it wasn't your business. Like you made one offhand comment and it shattered somebody's world,
And
I
that brings
think
it.
he doesn't remember because he's that much of a piece of shit. He literally writes a fucking whole list of people he's wronged, and then like this was just one thing in the back of his mind years and years ago. Like it literally
Right.
didn't affect him at all, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, there's all these different people. Just imagine all those other people. What did he do to
Yeah.
them? Like,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
just for
Well, no,
having
and
a
and that
TikTok,
brings it
that's
back to the
like,
quote that always is recurring is, be it a stone or a grain of sand, they both in water they both sink the same.
Oh.
And it's, you know, however small that seemed to Dae-soo, it had this massive effect, and it's both
This
it's both
movie
negative.
is woke as
He-
fuck.
It's heavy, and it's
I'm
man,
just kind of laughing because if nobody in the chat has seen this movie, they're probably like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I was
is
thinking about
going
that.
on?" Like,
you need to watch
we
it.
started,
There's
we
nothing.
kind of went
Well, look.
around everywhere, and everyone's just like, "Bro,
That's what
you
Go
guys
ahead,
just you go watch the fucking movie. Just go
Yeah.
watch the movie. Like
Watch
it's
the
2 hours
movie.
of your life. You won't regret it. Like it's
Yeah.
a fantastic movie. So go fucking check it out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
paced incredibly well. You're not going to regret it.
Sorry, I derailed
James,
us. I derailed, anyways.
James, I agree with you on the fact that he's a piece of shit. And like,
Yeah.
so the interesting thing to me is, right, like, okay, you know, with your super villain, because basically this is a super villain, right? Like this is a guy that has infinite resources, right? He even says he's a Odesuologist, right?
Yes, yeah.
He has a he has a PhD in Odesu, right?
That's such
Mhm.
a good line. That's just
I
so
know.
clever, man.
Yeah,
Fuck.
he's
Right.
like, and now the
Right.
class is over, I need to do my homework or
Right.
something
So,
like that. It's
so
like,
you have to think, right? Like, so like you're the whole time you're thinking, what the fuck did he do to this guy? What the fuck did he do? What did he do? Where did he do?
Yeah.
Right? And like what he did was just be careless,
Yeah.
right?
But
it was
you know
just
what was
being careless.
even more fucked up is that he honestly believes that he only told one person, and that one person set the flame. Like it was just
it was his friend.
that's
Yeah,
what's crazy is that he had done so much wrong, but that one thing he never thought anything of it because it really wasn't him that like
And see, I
started
think
it, you know?
this like this idea of like him being careless, like it's like the very first scene in the movie. Okay, what kind of dude, what kind of father, grown ass man, right? Of a father of a 3-year-old is like fucked up in a drunk tank and appears like that's not his first fucking time. Like,
Yeah.
you
no,
know,
he's a
like
regular. Yeah,
he's a careless piece of shit. Right. And so like he has a history of being careless and like he has a history of like being he was kind of a class clown, right? Like, you know, in the flashbacks it kind of alludes to like the fact he's a sort of a class clown or whatever. And like finally someone who was like indirectly or directly, I guess in this case, like affected, you know, in a major his life was affected in a major way, like takes the time and the patience to teach this guy a lesson he'll never forget.
Yeah. Teach
Right?
him how to get a grip on his life, which I think
Right.
getting a grip on your life is, I think, an essential. It's in the imagery of the movie, and literally, he drunk tank, prison. After the prison, he goes to the rooftop, right?
hmm
He literally has a grip on somebody else's life.
Oh
yeah.
shit!
The movie starts
it's-
that way.
Yeah.
That's the very
that's the
first
way-
scene. Forgot
that's
about
the very
that.
first scene.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
literally has a grip on someone else's life, and you know what's crazy? That guy has a grip on his dog's life, and then it mirrors at the
Oh.
end again. No, wait, hold on.
Yes.
It mirrors where Woojin is carrying his sister's arm, holding her off the bridge.
Oh,
Grip,
yeah.
grip on life.
Yes.
And then at the very end, what does Odesu say? I'm your dog.
I'm your dog.
Yeah.
Grip on his life. It all goes back, and that's what makes this movie fucking
Oh, to Lee Woo-jin, I'm your
yeah.
dog. Yeah.
So he's
Yes.
on the leash again, gripping
Yeah.
his life. Same fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's a mirror of that very first scene where the guy has the dog. Remember the random dog, and he jumps off with the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they all have a grip on each other's lives, a collar, like just or like the arm,
Tie.
Yeah.
the tie.
And that's another thing that like seems like a simple, small, obvious thing start and end the movie the same way. But when it's done so well, it's like if you almost won't even notice it, and then when you realize it,
Right.
you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
so
It
good.
rhymes. It rhymes. Like, you know, like it's just in the beginning, like it just
Right.
it flows. Flows like
So
a song.
I do want to mention, and we haven't talked about this at all. The fucking hammer
fucking-
scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well,
The
okay.
hammer scene.
Fight scene.
The fight
Yes.
scene. Yeah.
That's so cool, dude.
No,
It
there's like
was-
nobody like okay, like is no. I know maybe now, maybe in 2020, that scene isn't like all that impressive or whatever.
Yeah, after
Okay,
3
yeah,
John
so
Wick movies,
actually-
maybe not, but
Yeah,
I don't know,
okay,
man.
so
It's
so when
still
I
a thing.
first saw this
It was
movie,
cool
I was
still.
like, this is the craziest one shot like
Yeah.
fight I've ever seen ever.
yeah.
Watching it again didn't age that well, actually. I'm
Really?
gonna say it. It wasn't.
Okay.
There was like a little bit of not weight behind some of the stuff.
I
I mean,
get it,
okay, but
yeah.
it was. It's good for its time. I think it's
Yeah.
a little.
Is it the one
not
where
as
he has
good
the
as I
knife in his
remember.
back? Is that that
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
I was staring at that the whole time. I was like, damn, that's good CG.
The knife in his back was the only thing in that entire scene that was edited.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
Everything
staring
else
at
was
it.
completely.
Yeah.
Everything was one shot. Yeah.
Well, and
So
what was
crazy.
interesting, like that scene felt like a video game side scroller, like just the way that it was
Yeah.
shot. It was just so it was so entertaining to watch. I mean, there was like at least 15 guys there that he was fighting
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
and but it was
It
just
was-
so fun.
It was like Double Dragon. Like, so I remember watching that and like thinking, okay, this is really an interesting approach. Because yeah, it was like a video game, right?
Yeah.
And there were parts of that scene. This last time I watched it, I was watching it. I was like, turn, like it was like I was playing Double Dragon. I was like, oh fuck, these guys behind me. Like I better fucking like beat on them and then turn around and
Right.
beat on these other fucking guys.
Yeah, you're just like, we're in the third dimension, please, and they can't. Like,
Yeah.
Right,
Dude, yeah, it
so
reminded me of
I-
video games so much. Like,
Yeah.
is that like
Well-
the way they go one at a time at him? Like, is that just a thing? Like, is that the optimal
a
thing
thing
to
in
do in
all-
that
I
situation,
feel like
or is
that's
that just a
believable
thing?
though.
That was
It does-
Like
that
3
was
guys
like
just run at him
big
at the same
harakiri.
time. Yeah, exactly. Like every movie and game is
I was
just
gonna
like,
bring up
Yeah.
Harakiri was a lot worse with it.
Well, yeah.
Like everyone is armed with swords. These guys have some sticks. Like
Yeah, but it feels like it every hit counts. You don't want to get punched in the fucking nose, man. Have you ever
Right,
hit
exactly.
your nose? It hurts so bad.
Yeah.
dude,
They're
I
just
felt like
well,
I felt like it was like I
was
think I
believable.
felt like it was like the most of that kind of scene. It was like the most believable of that kind of scene, if that makes any sense, right? So
I
like
agree.
Yeah.
I
he
agree.
takes some ass beating,
Yeah.
right? They gang up on top of him, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember the first time they gang up on top of him, he has his hammer and he starts hammering people's feet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, which is like,
Fucking hurts so
yeah,
bad.
because you're on the floor and that's all you got, right? Like you got your
Yeah.
fucking hammer and like so you can start hammering feet. And like so I felt like he does take an ass beating, and he does get jumped by multiple guys.
Mhm.
I mean,
he comes out with the black eye and shit, doesn't he? Like, there's.
Oh, he was
comes
fucked
out. He's
up.
bleeding.
Yeah.
He's fucked
Yeah,
up.
well,
He's got a
yeah,
knife
yeah.
in his back. He's bleeding.
Well, he
mean, saying
he
there's-
was
yeah.
kidding. That led to the fucking that led to the scene because right
Oh,
she was like
Jesus.
she was like, let me take your band-aids off, and he was like, let's get
Well,
down.
Well,
Don't
wait,
they
wait, you're
already
missing.
driving before?
Well, you're
Like,
missing you're missing an important part at the end of the. So there's the hallway scene. Then
Mhm.
he gets to the elevator, right? He
Right.
opens the
Oh
elevator.
yeah.
And there's
Gang
12
of
more
dudes.
guys in there.
Gang
Yeah.
of
Like,
dudes.
how is he?
The next shot opens the elevator. Well, because like, see, to me,
They'll pour out.
okay, like have you guys ever seen that movie, Unbreakable? Have you guys
No.
ever seen that?
No.
It's the
I
Shyamalan.
Yes, M.
Shyamalan movie?
Shamalama Ding Dong. Yeah,
Yes,
With
Shyamalan.
Nick Cage.
That's
yeah.
like so he did Sixth Sense, and then the next movie he did was this movie Unbreakable, right?
Yeah.
And it's Bruce Willis and it's Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the premise is like Bruce Willis, like he gets into this train accident that kills every single other person in the train
Except for
except for him. He survives, and then what he kind of figures out over the course of the movie, right, is that he's like invulnerable, right? And during the movie he meets again. Sorry, spoilers for Unbreakable.
Ah, shit.
Sorry, but like, and then at the end he meets Mr. Glass, right? Who like is a comic book collector, and like you find out that Mr. Glass is actually his kind of super villain, right? But the whole movie you don't know, like it's not a superhero movie. It's not presented as a superhero movie. It's not, right? This
Okay, side note,
is.
have you watched the other 2 movies in that
I
trilogy?
watched the one
Split.
with.
Dude,
Split
Split
and
is so
then-
good.
Yeah,
I watched Split. I didn't watch the last one.
The
Split
last
is fucked
one's
up.
really bad, but Split is
Yeah.
cool. Anyways,
Split is
sorry.
very cool. No, yeah, totally agree. I feel like this movie is a little. It's kind of a fucking superhero, but it's like, and it comes from a manga, right? It's kind of a superhero movie. It's like
it has those qualities. It definitely
Yeah.
has those like,
Yeah.
and that's what's like different between this movie is that like the meat and potatoes of the story allows for a little bit of wonkiness. Like the ant scene is fucking weird. It's very out of place, but
Yeah.
it fits because the meat and potatoes are so good. Like you
Yes.
you can forgive some of those weird
I-
artistic
For
stuff.
me, I felt like the ant
Fighting and
scene.
stuff like that, but
The ant scene didn't even need forgiving. I mean, this man is being sedated literally every time he has to go to sleep. He is being drugged. He is being hypnotized. Like it's just like a hallucination of like what his experience is, and like could be like some crazy fever dream.
This is a
So
superhero,
I even give it like
supervillain, like origin story, and like I don't know, like to me, like there's a lot of overlap here. And what I
Yeah.
like about that, right, is that yeah, this movie won the Cannes Film Festival, blah blah blah, whatever. This
Yeah.
movie is like highly regarded. But it's not high art. It's low art. This is like grounded, right? Like you're saying, James, like this isn't like some sort of like trying to like do 5 million things like over your head or trying to like tell this weird story that you can't comprehend or can't wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Storytelling is very clear,
yeah, it's
right?
very family friendly.
Oh god.
Is
Like-
it?
I mean,
Wow.
in a certain way,
No.
in a in a certain kind of way. But like I just feel like this is like to me like
It's not above anybody. It's not trying
it's
to
not
be
above any. It's not trying to do
Yeah.
that. And like the ant stuff, like that's about as like highfalutin as it gets.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like okay, like he's insane. He's lost his mind. He's been in a
Right.
prison for 15 years.
I
Of course,
think-
he's hallucinating ants and like eating live octopus and whatever.
yeah.
Like
Insane scene by the okay, but first
Dude,
I want to get okay. So this movie is it is like I hate to say it, but family friendly. Like the story is relatively easy to follow,
Yeah.
but they also go into very deep complexities of Oedipus. I want to bring it back to Oedipus's story,
Mhm.
very like vaguely to say.
Second movie loosely based or loosely inspired by a Greek mythology, right? Right?
That's what this.
That.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, is that the
Lighthouse
same
one.
one? Dude, you know what
Huh?
also has in common with the lighthouse?
What?
Someone pretending to
masturbation
be a
scene.
dog.
Oh,
Master-
and masturbation scene. Pretending to be a dog in a masturbation scene.
and
Jesus.
Pretending to be a dog. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
and a
both of those.
masturbation
To take
scene.
it back to Oedipus a little bit. Okay,
Right.
so Oedipus, he very, very high overview. He was born to a king and queen. The king saw a what is it called? Like a vision that his son was going to kill him and marry his mother, or marry the kid's mother. So the father put him off in the woods. The kid was adopted by another king and queen. Kid heard about the like the premonition or whatever of like what was going to happen. The kid goes back, actually like gets in a fight with some old man that happens to be his father. The old man was a king, marries his mother unknowingly, has several children, and eventually learns what he has done, like learns that it was incestuous, and gouges out his eyes. So
Oh,
that's like
shit.
the
Spoilers
kind
on
of spoilers on
spoilers
the
on
Greek mythology
Oedipus,
of
the Greek,
Oedipus.
the Greek gods.
But in this movie, so in Oedipus gouges out his eyes to not see the world that he knew was real, but Desu cuts off his tongue to not be able to speak of the world that he knows.
Yeah.
And so it was very much like when I think there was some presence of that at the end where he is reunited with Mido, and he literally can't tell her what he has done and what he knows.
Yeah.
And so it was like this beautiful thing. So I think that this movie can get really into the weeds if you want it to, but it could also be just this easy story to just watch and enjoy. And I think that is the sign of a great film.
There's
Where
a
if you
reason
want to
I
know
love this
more,
movie.
you can, but if you want to just watch it as a movie that you watch on a Saturday night, it can be that too.
Yeah.
So
Most fucked up Saturday night movie you've ever watched.
Watch it
I
with
mean,
mom and dad if you can.
yeah, totally, yeah.
don't do that.
For the whole family.
Yeah.
but see, there's a and I think you hit on it, Adrian. There's a reason I'm a sucker for this movie. It's because like I love Greek mythology. Like when I was a kid, I read all like I had this like I had my parents got me this like Bullfinch's mythology, which is like basically like a collection of all these like different Greek myths, right? Like
Right.
like myth of Narcissus and all this stuff. Like it's always been like super interesting to me. All those stories. I mean, shit. Me and Jay started a company named after a fucking Greek god. Like, there's no coincidence. Like any of that shit is like a bunch of that stuff. Like is just kind of run through my life. So I know these stories, and so yeah, this is obviously invoking Oedipus. And the cool thing here's the cool thing, right? This is what makes this movie really cool. On top of all that, and I learned this today. If you read the manga, right? The manga has none of that shit in there.
Ah,
The incest angle, none of that's there.
Oh wow.
really?
So then what's
So the manga, I give you the real quick breakdown of the manga.
actually I don't know if I want to know. Well, okay.
I'm like, I kind
Just-
of want to read
But
it.
it misses it doesn't have
Don't
that.
totally spoil it. Like what?
Okay,
You guys don't read. Come on.
it's 8 volumes. Like
Twice.
Comics, bro,
you
come
know,
on.
it's like it's tough, but yeah. So it lacks that whole dimension. Like so that whole thing
That's
was
very.
added in.
That's
Is
like
it still
that's crazy.
good? I feel like that's what makes this movie great.
It's not great.
If
I
there's
think
no
it's
sex,
interesting.
Taryn's not in it.
Yeah, I know.
So
It-
that's
Get it out of here, dude.
It's
Wincest. He needs the wincest.
if it's like so like for me like the manga is cool, is fine, it's interesting, right? A lot of the stuff lines up, the revenge piece, like the imprisoned piece, all that. But that it's good. This movie is great. Like this
Yeah.
movie layers on top of that like all these other interesting things, and you're totally right. You don't need to know. You don't need to fucking read Oedipus. If you don't want to, that's cool.
Yeah.
No skin off your back. You could still enjoy this movie, right? And not get all the subtext. And the reality is like, dude, I know you guys took some Korean, but like none of the 5 of us are Korean. We're probably like missing all sorts of other references and
cultural
layers
references.
and
Yeah.
context that like okay, we're never gonna get. But think about it, there's enough there for us to just like appreciate it on like a purely like cinema level,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Going back to the Oedipus thing, there was one of my biggest gripes when I first saw this movie was how young Woojin was compared to Odesu.
Right.
And so once I got into researching the movie, it was actually the director's choice to make him young so that way he would seem like he was a god and that he
Yeah.
was immortal. And he actually put him up in like this crazy skyscraper so that way he seemed like he was kind of like on a Mount Olympus-esque like type
He
thing,
was
which I thought was
watching
like,
over
mere
everyone.
mortals.
what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah.
Because I was like, this guy's so young. I was like, this guy definitely didn't go to school with this guy. But like once you get that extra angle with it, you're just like,
Right.
what
Oh,
the
yeah.
fuck? That's kind of cool.
But he's like a rich guy, so rich guys don't
Yeah.
age like we
No,
age,
no.
dude. You know what I mean? Like they get like hair plugs and like surgery and like
yeah.
eat like
No, he's literally godly.
extra vegan or
A
whatever
whole-
the fuck.
like,
You
yeah.
know,
Dude, can we
Yeah.
talk for a second about his closet? It was this square
Dude,
thing that separates into
was
4
super cool.
quadrants.
They
That
showed
was
us so
super
many
cool.
Fucking
times.
baller.
They showed us
That's
so
the
many times. I was
coolest thing.
like, he's definitely getting crushed in this, right?
Yeah,
Like, why
yeah.
did they keep showing this?
Oh,
And then he
that-
didn't. I was
because
like,
they
"Oh."
spent a lot of money on that goddamn closet.
It was
and they
really
needed,
cool.
And they
Well,
needed as
hey,
much
man.
B-roll as they could get.
Yeah.
And I was
bespoke
all for it.
bespoke artisan closet. You know what I mean? Like that's. I mean, he's a rich guy, dude. You know.
So that's the thing. Okay, so let's talk about wealth and being rich. I feel like Lee Woo-jin's character had a lot of similarities to The Great Gatsby, where the Great Gatsby has this giant. He builds this giant empire just to like impress this girl, and it feels like Lee Woo-jin's character is like, let me just be as fucking elaborate as I possibly can just to get some revenge and then kill myself. And
you're
it's-
like you're. I don't. Are you're trying to like actively make me like happy? Like this is like because Gatsby is like maybe my favorite novel of all time.
Gatsby
right?
is
So-
my favorite novel. Yeah.
Okay, so like, and I never made that connection. Like it's funny. The connection I was making was with like Adrian Veidt, who's the bad guy in The Watchmen,
Oh yeah.
right?
Okay.
Who's like this super rich guy who like accrues and builds his wealth and his empire to scam the whole world with like spoiler.
Yeah.
Really fucking ruining movies and shit for everybody in
But
this
with
pod.
these two
But
characters, it's so much more simple. Their
There's
motive is so much more simple.
Yeah.
It's for
right.
vengeance or for a woman.
Gatsby.
You know.
Gatsby is a fascinating character, and like to me, like the thing about difference between Gatsby and Lee Woo-jin is like I have deep empathy for Gatsby the whole way through, right? Like because like he can never be accepted because he's like a bootlegger and he had to make his to make his money like illegally, right?
New money.
Right.
Lee Woo-jin, right? Like I mean, he wasn't accepted because he loved his sister in like a
Right.
non-socially acceptable kind of way. And
I think their motives are the same though. Their motives are so personal and so like
personal, very personal.
self-fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
Like to build this thing just for themselves, and it's not even about the other thing that they're going for anymore. It's just this like what's the word, narcissistic thing about themselves that they're just narcissists, right?
Yeah.
So
No, hey, your lips to God, man. That's a fucking very interesting comparison that never occurred to me, and I'm sure that there's like a reason why I like Gatsby so much and why I like this movie so much. There's a lot of interesting themes around that sort of repeat, for sure.
yeah.
Wow, you made me pause there, dude. That's
I think the other three not big Gatsby fans, so I can't relate too much. But yeah, no.
Yeah. Jay, I got
Maybe
you. Like I got you. Like I got you, Gatsby, right? Did I
Yeah,
buy you Gatsby? You gotta
yeah.
fucking read that.
I've not read it all, but I do have it. But yeah, no. What I was gonna say is like the parallel that I was drawing a lot to was like it's a lot of different inspirations, or what I feel things might have been inspired from. But it felt like at times it was a really dark Scott Pilgrim. Like there was that kind of vibe.
Oh
Where
wow.
it was like not. There was a degree
It's
of
a video.
cheesiness, but it was like it worked and it didn't feel
Wow. I
awkward.
like that
It's
even
a video
more.
game. It's a video game. There's a
Yeah,
reason
yeah.
it's not a movie
Yeah.
too, right?
That's
Yeah,
what I was
exactly.
saying about the meat and potatoes. Like it has the cheese on top, but it's okay.
Yeah,
Everything else is that good.
right.
That some of the cheesiness and the outlandish shit like passes, which is weird.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always talk shit about early 2000s movies because they're so weird. This definitely has that shit in it, like the crazy transitions and the shitty like CG and stuff. But like, it works in this one. Like, it just it's just so good that it's
I
fine.
don't think the shitty CG is ever distracting.
Exactly.
I didn't notice it very much. I mean, like they made some
That's okay.
decisions when they were like the octopus scene where he's eating the octopus.
Not CG.
That's a
That
real
was
fucking
real.
yeah.
That was real.
You
did it
watched the
3
video of him
times.
doing it?
Did it 3 times, by the
Well,
way.
I think they used 3 different octopuses
Yeah.
and like at different stages of consumption. Like
He actually he's a Buddhist. He prayed
Yeah.
to each
He like
octopus each
apologized
time.
and shit.
Yeah.
Well, but let me just say that like I don't know anyone in the chat that's inspired to like fucking eat a live octopus. Like they actually have like for mollusks or for like I think for invertebrates they actually have one of the most like developed like nervous systems. Like they feel pain, and like it's like a horrible thing. And don't do it.
Yeah, I
And,
saw
like,
something that was like that was the most humane way they could do that or something by just doing the top first or whatever. I don't know.
Top first, yeah, I would hope so. Because like
Yeah.
that's pretty
There's also
horrible.
the thing about like an octopus can be killed and like its tentacles are all still going to move just with how it's nervous. It's probably
Yeah.
not feeling it after it's
They-
killed,
yeah.
but it's just going to move around just like fish. I mean, if anyone has if everyone's ever gutted a fish, they're flopping around once their head and heart is out.
But Kurt Cobain did say that fish don't have no feelings, so I believe him, and I know that octopus has feelings. So
So do you think he felt it?
Oh Jesus!
the
Too soon.
octopus?
No, that
Yes.
was a
Oh.
was that a suicide joke? I don't know what that
Oh,
was.
wow.
Oh,
That's
okay.
stretch,
Wow.
okay.
Yeah.
Or was it a murder joke?
Damn, dude.
We love
Oh.
Kurt Cobain.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, come on. Oh, come on, man, dude. We don't
Wow,
need to get into conspiracy theory.
We've hit all kinds of
Some
marks today.
We've somehow got to the murder mystery, or maybe lack thereof, of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love.
No, he was a fucked up drug addict, and he fucking. He
um,
didn't need
you're just
anyone to
mad
murder.
because grunge killed.
He was
Killed
fucked
him,
up, dude. He was a drug
Just don't
addict.
feel
He's a-
pain, and I'm gonna trust him on this one. But he was a fucked up drug addict.
Well, to be fair, he wrote that song like years, at least 3 or 4 years before he.
Before they figured out
and I
fish.
think he minored in marine biology. I can't.
He's from the state of Washington. They got water, a lot of it. You know,
Yeah,
they got an ocean.
smoking, he's there all the
So I've
time.
heard.
Right.
Yeah, what do I know? I'm just in the desert.
Oh my
Yeah, you don't know shit about fish. You don't know shit about octopus. Get the fuck out of here.
You're not wrong.
gosh.
Yeah. Shit, I don't know what else to. I mean, we could literally. There are lots and lots
Yeah.
more things we could keep talking about. I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily want to repeat myself. I think one thing worth mentioning is I did watch the newer one, the 2013.
Oh, right, yeah.
I did
Um,
today as well.
Wait. Okay,
saw
so it's
it
the
in
same
theater.
title. Is it
It's the
considered
same
a
thing.
newer one?
It's literally
remake?
newer because it
An
came
American
out
remake.
after. That's all they
American
mean by that.
remake
What?
by Spike
Ugh.
Lee, featuring Josh Brolin as Odesu and
One of the Olsen
Elizabeth
sisters. Yes,
Olsen
yes, yes.
as Mido. So you
Do they
got
share the
Thanos,
same name?
Scarlet Witch.
No, not the same
no.
names.
Is the plot the
It's
same, or is
Joe-
it completely?
It's literally
The
the
plot
same.
is
Right?
decently the same. No, actually, there's that. It goes into Odesu's. I'm gonna call him Odesu because what's his name? Joe.
Oh.
It goes into Odesu's alcoholism more. Like they literally are feeding him alcohol, like when he's in jail, and then
Oh,
all of a sudden he's like, "I'm not gonna do this anymore," because, and it goes into the TV. The TV is actually a propaganda studio that was created by the man in the tower, whatever his
Oh,
name
wow.
is. Gucci.
Mhm.
So they go into that and they show like, oh, I hired an actress to play your daughter, but it's not your daughter. Your daughter's the one that you've been fucking. And the incest twist was actually that their parent, his dad fucked his sister and him too.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
Whoa.
and that Odesu or
it's even
Joe
that-
saw that in
Yeah.
the prep school they went to. Like,
Yeah, Odesu saw her fucking his dad, and then yeah, but
Jesus.
he also fucked his dad too. So they take the concepts and like try to twist them. This is definitely like a shock value over like the actual.
Yeah, I was like, I
value.
don't know if that's
it's
necessary.
it's really
Yeah.
bad. Like the violence is like even more gory. Like this movie's fucking gory. Like it's really gory.
Dude,
They
oh my
somehow
God.
turn it up to
Never
11.
mind.
They
That's
turned
nice.
it, yeah, they turned the violence up to 11. They fucking the end instead of Odesu like seeing the hypnotist and all this shit is the end is he gives like so okay the end is Li Woo-jin, you know, character or whatever the fuck his name is. That guy, he as part of his deal, like if he can figure out who he is and why he did it, right? He gives him like $20 million in diamonds. It's like all this shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, he gets the diamonds, right? And so what he does is he gives most of them and to his daughter, right? Who was like the girl he was in love with during the whole movie. And writes a letter to her and says, "You'll never see me again. Don't waste your time trying to remember or anything.
Yeah.
And here's a bunch of diamonds. Go live your life." And then he uses the rest of the diamonds, and this I actually thought was kind of interesting. He uses the rest of the diamonds to buy his way back into the prison room to live out the rest of his days in the prison room.
Yeah.
Oh,
For
wow.
himself to live in it?
As penance?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So I
Yeah.
actually thought that was like an interesting like take
Yeah.
on the ending.
Yeah, wow.
I appreciate that.
I really liked the how he had a real struggle with alcohol. Like I like that. Like that felt like it was. I felt like that actually added a lot to his character development and everything.
Right.
But
They were just like
overall,
pieces that were.
they missed like the internal dialogue. Like in this movie, like when he finally gets out of prison, he goes and he sees all those ruffians, and he's like, does 15 years of training actually work in real life?
That was
And
so
Yeah.
good.
I guess it does, or whatever. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't like they don't have like the cheesy inner monologue in the American version, so it just kind of falls flat. But I'm gonna say we rewatched it today. It wasn't actually as bad as I remember it to be.
Hmm.
Like it was.
It's not bad.
It's not the masterpiece. I'm
Yeah.
saying it.
Yeah.
It's not the masterpiece that Oldboy is for me.
Yeah.
But like it kind of feels like a montage of Oldboy. Like it's like
Yeah.
here are some cool parts, but not all the depth and
Totally.
all the good
Yeah,
stuff.
on paper or like from what you guys are saying, it just sounds like they just tried to make the story digestible for our
It
stupid
has a
American
hammer.
brains.
It has a hammer fight scene that's not as good.
It's
Right,
a
like
little bit longer. It's actually
it's
quite
longer.
a bit longer, but it
Is
just
it a
I don't know,
one
it doesn't-
shot?
Yeah,
I think it's a
yes.
one shot, yeah.
There's some cool. Okay, there's like some cool thing where it's like I think isn't it in a parking garage?
Yeah.
And he's like it's like he's like going on like
Up
one level of
and
the
then
parking
down.
garage, and then he kind of loops around like a column to another section of the parking garage and keeps fighting. But
I like how
it was
the guy on the chain fan. That was kind of cool. He was like,
yeah.
like, that was cool.
So here's the thing, right? Like, okay, why does the hammer scene and the dudes with bats and knives and shit work in the Korean movie, and why doesn't it work in the American movie, in my opinion? Okay, in Korea, do you know how fucking hard it is to get a gun? Right?
Oh yeah, I
Like,
can imagine.
so like it's basically impossible to get a gun, right? So like, so if you have like like gangsters or whatever, they're not gonna have guns for the most part. They're gonna have fucking bats and shit like that. So like, it's not unbelievable, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
But this in the American version, like this is like a billionaire, and his like goons have like fucking like sticks and bats, and they don't have guns, and so like it's not believable, and the reason they do that is because like you can't have a Hall like hammer scene if people got guns, because then that fucking scene is real
Right.
short. It's
Dude.
like I got a hammer, pow pow pow, end of the scene.
That's actually
Yeah.
why I had such a problem with Fistful of Dollars, because like Yojimbo, they have swords and shit, and like in Fistful of Dollars, they'll have guns and shit. It's like, all right, this fight's fucking gonna end real quick. That's not interesting, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but they do cool shit with the guns in Fistful of Dollars.
Oh yeah, I know. But,
I'm gonna defend Fistful of Dollars, just by the way.
Yeah.
And also,
Different.
like you should definitely watch the other two in the series, because like, Good and Bad, the Ugly, you gotta watch. Like you just gotta watch.
Yeah,
It's like
it's a
the
great
movie that
film.
makes all the cliches. Anyway, not to get distracted. But
Well,
yeah,
did-
so that go ahead.
Go for it. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, to compare the new one, like there's no like, I'm not cutting a promo here on like Spike Lee or anything. Like Spike Lee is a great American director. Like he's made movies that are in like definitely some of my favorites, like Do the Right Thing, like
oh, never mind. I just get
Mo
the
Better
spikes
Blues.
confused. Fuck. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, Spike Jones, you're thinking.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, he made like his version of Malcolm X, I think, is like fucking amazing. With Denzel.
Black
So he's
Klansman, right?
like he did Black Klansman. I didn't like Black Klansman as much, but like he's just a tremendously talented guy. Like he's an amazing filmmaker. But
New York Knicks fan, super fan.
big Nick fan. I don't think he goes to the Garden anymore because the moron,
Yeah,
the
they tried to,
owner,
like, ban him or some
James
shit.
Dolan. Yeah, what a fucking mess.
Anyways.
And a true New Yorker too. That's the other thing I love about like him. He's like a true New Yorker, true Brooklynite. I think he did this for the money, and like, and it's not that I think he mailed it in or anything, but like I think you're right, James. It's like almost like a greatest hits of old boy.
Yeah.
Like
in
like
American, no subtitles.
the hammer scene, like it. I would have been fine. I know they were trying to homage like the original, but like it didn't make sense.
You had to. Like it was just
Yeah.
kind of like, you're gonna make this movie. You have
It's like the most notable scene from the original.
Yeah.
There's
So
there's
Boy.
little like there's little like attempts to like connect it. Like another thing in the newer movie is when because he's not in the drunk tank in the newer movie. He's just like making a drunk ass of himself,
Yeah,
like
pissing on
throughout
the
the whole night.
sidewalk, doing this and that.
And so he's walking down the street. He sees this Asian lady, um, and she has this umbrella on, right? And she's wearing the wings, right? Like the
Whoa.
wings, like that he gave his like
yeah,
in the original. So there's like these little like homage, like little like references. If you watch the old movie, you
Easter
get it.
eggs. Yeah,
Yeah, the
But
thing that I was gonna say that's kind of related to that is, and if you guys already covered this, sorry, I stepped away for a sec. But Adrian was saying like Odesu loosely translates or something to like the everyman, right? And the
Everyday
main
Man.
character's
Yeah,
name is Joe, it's like the average Joe. You know, that
Mm.
connection is
Everyman.
interesting. I've
Hmm.
never seen the new one, but
Yeah,
I
so
noticed
the
that when you guys
so
were
the
talking about it.
in the manga, Odesu, who's actually I think because this is a Japanese manga, so
Yeah.
it's I think it's Goto is the name of the main character in the manga. Um, Goto is actually a nice guy,
Yeah.
and when he gets imprisoned, he has no idea who it could possibly be, right?
Mm.
Like he has no clue, right?
Mm.
In Oldboy, Odesu he's not evil.
It's a loose cannon,
He's
though.
just careless and just
Yeah.
just kind of a fucking clown. Like
Yeah.
Right.
not a grown up, right? And so and he thinks like, yeah, all these people that I've wronged in different ways. Also, he's like he sleeps around, right? That's it. Another thing that's kind of like hinted
Yeah.
at, right? Is that like he's
Yeah.
like fucking so like he's just kind of careless and sort of cavalier. In the newest movie, like in the remake, the American remake, I think Josh Brolin's character is a real piece of shit. Like he in the beginning opening scene, it's like made clear like he's behind on his like child support, and
Mm.
he like he's like kind of a piece of shit like sort of executive type who like there's a couple scenes where he's like harming people, right?
Yeah.
With the actions he does. So um that's not super interesting to me. Like and ask like somebody who like everyone knows is like a dickhead and he just gets it coming to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first one, while it's like mysterious, if I'm not going to spoil the manga, but like if you find out eventually what the real reason is why he's being kidnapped. It like it's kind of it's a it doesn't land to me. Like it's just like
Mm.
what?
Yeah.
The old boy Korean 2003. It's like it's the Goldilocks of like what it needs to be, right? Which is like he's not evil, he's just kind of a careless piece of shit, and like
Yeah.
somebody decided to show this careless piece of shit like what's up, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And I think with all of that being said, seems like a pretty good time to jump into our ratings. So, do we have any rounding thoughts right before we get into this, or I think we're good to
Still?
go for it?
I'm ready.
Good.
give it
Who
to
wants-
Alonso. Give it to him.
Yeah,
You want to take
yeah.
over
You
ratings
want me
first,
to
Alonso?
kick it off? Okay.
So with your rating, also, could you fumble? Could you drink while watching this movie and enjoy it just as much, even more, or less?
Yeah, I thought about this. I don't know, man. You're not watching this movie to have like a fun time. And like like so okay, I'll start by just backing up a little bit. Like why do we watch movies, right? Like for lots and lots of different reasons that are completely valid. Everyone watches movies for different reasons, right? It sometimes I run into people that watch movies for one reason, right? And it is confusing to me, right? Like so sometimes I like run into people and they're like, I watch movies because I just want to chill out and not think about things, right? Like I just want to fucking like get the popcorn out and see some shit blow up or
Just
whatever,
pass the
right?
time, basically.
Right. Yeah, and that's no, I don't want to sound like a prick. Like no judgment. I don't get it. I just don't get it, right? Because like that's not how I don't know. I've been going to movies for a long time and I just don't. That's just not the way I roll.
Mhm.
So not every movie you go into it to like have a fun time, right? And like, you know, art is like doesn't have to be like a fun time. It doesn't have to be like something you walk away from and then like you learn something or you feel better about yourself or something, you know, like it just has to move you, right? Like to me, like a movie is successful if it moves you, right? Like if it moves you in some way, whether it's like, wow, that was amazing, that was like this like amazing technical thing, or like, wow, like the plot was just like crazy, or like, or hey, there were these interesting shots, or the music was amazing, like whatever, you know, if a movie can figure out a way to move you, like I think it's successful. Um, you don't go into this movie like to have a fun time. And like I associate having a drink with having a fun time. Like we're here, we're having fun,
Yeah.
right? Like I want to have fun,
Yeah.
right? I want to like shoot the shit and chill out.
Yeah.
And so I feel like for me, I'm not going to pair this movie with like alcohol,
Yeah.
you know? Like maybe like 15 years ago I might have paired it with like some other substance.
A Cabernet Sauvignon, it pairs well with old.
Right. Maybe I would have, yeah, I don't know. There's some other things that are out there that you could do and watch movies and like have a fun time, I guess. But yeah, so no, I'm gonna say no. Like, do you need to be like on point and like be like, you know, like razor sharp focused to for this movie to be like a success or like for this movie to make sense? No. That's the nice thing, right? You can just roll in there and sit down, watch a fucking movie, and you're in. So I'm gonna say no. No, I don't think you can. For me, I can't. I wouldn't want to.
Mhm.
You
Sure.
know, doesn't sound like a fun time.
All right.
Okay, so rating wise, um, so I'm gonna concentrate on the things I didn't like about this movie because we didn't talk about that at all, right? Like,
True.
what is the stuff I didn't like about this movie? There's like, I was thinking about it earlier today. There are two things I didn't like about this movie. The music at the beginning is a little like early 2000s techno electronic
Yeah.
and it sounds really dated to
Yeah.
me, right?
Sure.
Hmm.
It's like a
Like
little like
Blade nightclub.
swordfish type of bullshit, you know, like it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't sound very good. Okay. Um, the second thing is the reliance on hypnosis as like a plot device.
Ah,
Mm.
shit.
Okay.
It's
Kind of a
a
cop out, right? A little bit.
it's a little cliche to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's a little like you know how many fucking movies and soap operas like play with like amnesia or like
But it didn't feel like terrible. Sorry, I'm gonna
no.
go into it because like
Yeah.
and
No,
I
I
was gonna
agree.
mention that. Like I was like, hypnosis usually is just like the dumbest fucking thing ever, right? And
Pretty
it
much.
didn't
Right.
feel like it wasn't. I get where you're coming from. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit cop outy, but like
I didn't
was
feel like it fucked up the movie or it was like it
yeah,
suspended my disbelief or anything like that. I thought it was
yeah,
done really artfully. Like there were the scenes where like, you know, the scene at the end where she's doing hypnosis and he's like kind of imagining and so like to me like it didn't like play like
yeah,
horribly or terribly or whatever. It's just that generally it's a lazy plot device, right?
yeah,
It's just like a
Mm.
thing that you do to like move the plot in the direction you want even though it kind of doesn't
yeah.
make sense, right?
Okay.
So all that said, this movie for me is I'm going to give it a 9 to 10. And I'm giving it a 9 to 10 just because all the things we talked about, the multiple levels, how easy it is to just get right in, the crazy twist, the revenge aspect. I love revenge movies. This is like the revenge movie for me.
Revenge double fold.
And then the other piece is this movie kicks off Korean movies for me. Like this movie
Mm.
opened up the door to Korean movies and like
Mhm.
there are some amazing fucking movies being made in Korea to this day. Um if you like and so I'm gonna like I'll give a little plug for like some of my favorite Korean movies now. Like if you like this movie, I actually like okay, I like this movie the best of the three vengeance movies that this director made, right?
Mhm.
But if you like this movie, do yourself a favor and watch Lady Vengeance. It is so fucking good. And in some ways, in some of the technical aspects, to me, it's better.
Wow.
You're not gonna get a better plot than this plot. To
Yeah.
me.
Is
But
that the first or the third?
the third,
Okay.
the third, Lady Vengeance. Lady Vengeance. It stars Odesu, the actor Choi Min Sik. Oh, I fucking butcher his name.
That's as close as I was gonna get.
Yeah, I'm gonna butcher his name. Stars him, so he is a very evil character in that movie.
Interesting.
Okay, and dude, it's great. It's great. It's a ride. Like you're gonna. It's the same similar idea, right? You're gonna get right in. It's a revenge story. You're gonna get right in, and it's just gonna go. And it's in some ways like more artfully, like like some of the shots are like beautiful. One thing we didn't talk about, I did want to mention, there are shots in this movie that are like paintings.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, like where they just kind of hold in frame,
Yeah.
like nothing moves, and it's like there's a shot like after Odesu and Mido sleep together, and they're just laying in bed, and they get up and they see the box.
Yeah. They're standing.
Do you remember
there.
that?
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
it's just like
I was
it's
gonna
just like-
screenshot that. I was like, this is fucking good looking, dude.
yes, I know.
Yeah.
It's like a painting. It's like a fucking paint. It's like he all the stuff he learned in that movie he took over to Lady Vengeance, and Lady Vengeance is intense. I mean, I'm not saying go watch again. Watch it under the same with the same mental frame. Yeah, the same idea as this movie. Like watch it like that, and you're gonna have a fucking blast. Some of this director's other movies are totally worth watching. Also, he did a movie, English language movie called Stoker that I think is really really good too. There's so many great Korean movies. Another movie that stars Choi Min Sik is a movie named I Saw the Devil. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's another one, man.
Mhm.
And that's maybe more fucked up than this movie, if that's possible. But just a wild ride. I saw the devil. It's so good. There was a movie I saw at the Guild like 2 years ago, called The Wailing, like Wailing, like not like a whale, right?
Yeah.
And it's a ghost horror movie, and it was the best movie I watched at the Guild. It may have been the best movie I ever watched at the Guild. There is a scene in that movie. It's like an exorcism scene that is so intense. It's like so crazy. It's so intense. Great, interesting story, and fuck, I don't know. I could go on and on. Korean movies are so amazing. So this movie kicked off Korean film for me.
Great.
And for that alone, it gets a 9, man. Like,
Yeah.
it just exposed me to all this cool shit and all these great filmmakers and great movies.
Nice. Yeah.
9 out of 10.
9 out of
That's
10.
My,
That's
my word
a
on it.
good score. Yeah,
Strong
strong start. Is anyone else dying to go next? I think I'm ready if no one's ready to take it over.
Take it, Adrian.
Go for it.
All right, I want to touch a little bit on how you felt that the hypnotism kind of thing was maybe a little bit of a cop out to kind of move the story along. I actually really liked that as a storytelling element because I think that this movie kind of showed the issues that hypnotism can have, like the problems that it can have, and like the gray areas, and especially with the ending scene where the audience is left knowing, like, did the hypnotism work correctly, did it not, where it was just, it left a lot to have a conversation on. I think it was just a lot of fun to see. Real quick to touch on Can You Fumble? You know what? And that, I think, is what I love so much about this movie, is that you can watch this movie. It's very watchable. You could just from front to back watch it, kind of forget about it and be like, that was a fun flick. I enjoyed it. But you can also look very deep into it, and you can say like, who is Oedipus? Like, let's do some more research on it. And movies that can do that, we talked a lot about that in our episode on Hereditary. Movies that can do that well, I think, are just so much fun to watch. So yeah, totally. You could have a couple beers with this movie. The action is fun. The storytelling isn't terribly hard to follow. You're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
But you can look, and even I've only seen this movie once, but just talking about it and bringing up all of these other things that we've mentioned, just really like you can go so deep, and it's so much fun. To touch on the cinematography, I mean, like Alonso was saying, there's a lot of shots that just seem like they could be framed, right? Like there's even just some simple shots that there's a shot where Dae-soo has a piece of sushi and some chopsticks where he's at a restaurant, and it just like the camera zooms past his face, past the chopsticks, past like out into the restaurant. It's just all of these are done
Wonton.
so well. Oh, is it wonton? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because remember it's the
Dumpling,
He's
wonton.
trying to
dumpling.
Or it's a dumpling. It's a dumpling.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a fried dumpling. Remember, because that's
They look
what he
so good.
eats. That's
I
what
Right,
he eats.
yeah.
at
That's
the
how he
time.
figures out where the place is. Yeah.
But just
But
the
dude,
way
you-
the shots can pull back, and that happens a lot in the the two-dimensional video game-esque hammer scene that was also just so great. So what I'm saying is that you're just always going to have fun. There's cinematography to take you along. I think the music may be a little cheesy at times, but was very fitting for 2003. And I love this movie so much. This was easily a 9.25 for me.
Nice.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Dude,
alright,
you're totally
yeah.
right. That was on some cinema shit. That's another. You're exactly. That's another one where rewatching it this time, I was like,
Mhm.
wow, that's really cool. And how do you construct a shot like that
Right,
where
I
you're
can't even
panning,
imagine.
where you're panning
Yeah.
out in like 3 dimensions and like somehow there must have been some CG there. Do you think? I don't know. Like where you're avoiding the fucking like fried dumpling.
Yeah,
Like
getting
it's
in the
like
shot.
panning out, like, and you have to kind of sneak
Yeah,
around. I
because
don't
you
know.
think
It's a weird.
the chopsticks are separated this far, and to have
Yeah,
that
yeah. It's
shot.
like
Yeah,
it's
Oh,
a
yeah,
so
yeah.
great.
yeah.
Alright, so
Right on.
9.25 from me. Who wants to take it over next?
I can go next.
Alright, Jay, take it away.
Okay, so yes, I agree. I think that you could fumble if you want, but you don't have to. And if you did, it may not be the funnest thing in the world. But if you did, but also if you did, there is parts that are fun. I don't know. It just depends on what you like to go into a movie feeling.
Jay, can I amend? Can I amend my like? See, I think you guys are onto something.
Yeah.
Maybe for me now, it's like, okay, you can't fumble the first viewing, but like repeat watches, I think it would be really fun. Like to get pretty
Yeah.
drunk and rewatch it. Now that like the sting of like the shock of like the whole like
Sure, yeah.
incest
Right.
twist and all this other
Yeah.
shit is over.
Yeah.
And you can just appreciate it for just like just some cinema like nerd shit. Like that would be fun to drink for
Yeah,
sure.
that makes sense to me. But yeah, I think, like what's already been said, it's an interesting movie. Like you can go deep into it, you can watch it for what it is. It's good both ways. But also like, we mentioned that as like a mark of a good movie. I think another mark of a good movie that this has is like if you're trying to explain it to someone and you're just like, it's like incest and like trapped, and you're like, the words that you say are like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Who is
Yeah.
this
Oh
guy?
man.
Why
Sounds
is he
like a
talking about incest?
nightmare. A
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, like, I mean, this conversation, you can go like the things that happen in the movie are just like you can wipe them away, and there's still so much to talk about. Like
Yeah.
the feelings that it can evoke, the like themes that it can touch on, the even through these like incestual devices or whatever you want to call them, like it acts not necessarily as a shock, even though it is a shock, but as like a catalyst, I guess, for more feelings and more of this shit, and not in a bad way, in a good way. And I think that a movie that can do something that's probably considered super taboo, but turn it to make it like, yeah, that's in there, but it's still a good movie. Like when you're explaining
Yeah.
it, you just kind of
Yeah.
have to like gloss over that. I
Yeah.
think that's a good mark for me. So that, along with like we were talking about cinematography, I'm always a sucker for that. There was specifically a shot that I thought immediately of Parasite with was if there's like a side of a building staircase kind of zoom out shot that reminds me a lot of the Parasite sequence where they're running back home
Okay.
through the rain and stuff, where they do a lot
Yeah.
of like really zoomed
Yeah.
out kind of movement shots.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But that, and this Parasite is probably my first like self-conscious Korean movie that I actively knew was Korean.
Yeah.
And so this would be my second, but I'm super interested in watching more Korean stuff because this is just like insane. But for me, I am gonna give this movie an 8.9. It's right there. I don't. If you were to say what would it take for you to give it a 9, I'm not really sure. Like I really like it.
Another watch through.
Another watch,
I'm
maybe
sure.
that's it.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I bet. I bet.
I really
I
like
bet.
it though. It's awesome. It was
Nice.
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, Jay, you reminded me of another. There's another shot in this movie. Do you remember when? So he figures out which Chinese restaurant it is, right?
Right.
And he
Purple
goes to
Dragon. Yeah.
he goes to follow the dude on the bike, right, delivering, right? Um, the guy
Oh,
gets
he's
on his
running.
bike, and he like, and it's like a it's just framed on the bike, and then the bike goes through the frame, right, like kind of a mid shot. Bike runs through the frame, it goes through the frame, and then he's running full fucking force
Yeah.
through the frame, and it like again, that's just one of those where it's just like indelible, like it just gets stuck in your head. Like these are
Yeah.
like framed like fucking paintings.
That's where
Yeah.
the Scott Pilgrim parallel comes into my head. Like weird shit like that where it's like
Mm.
it's cheesy, but like not, I don't know, it
It
works.
just works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
All
Yep.
right. So an 8.9 coming out of Jay. Who's
Go
got
ahead,
it next?
Go ahead, Darren.
Okay.
Taryn.
I don't know, man. This movie was very entertaining. Like I remember towards the beginning of the show, Adrian mentioned like not what did you say about like the twist or whatever? Like you weren't like waiting for, or you were waiting for the twist or not waiting for the twist?
No, yeah, I didn't. I wasn't waiting for that kind of twist to happen. Like, it
Yeah,
didn't feel like it was gonna
exactly.
happen.
So
Yeah.
it was just I was so engaged. I forgot that there was a reason why this was happening. You know what I mean? I was just
Right.
following along. I was like, holy fuck, this is so much fun to watch. Like just as like a
Mhm.
mystery movie. And then when the twist happens, dude, that's when this movie goes from like a good movie to like a great fucking movie. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
I agree.
Like, cause yeah, before I mentioned like John Wick, those are also like crazy action revenge movies. Probably more fun to watch,
Yeah.
but they don't
The
have
dog
that
wasn't his
fucking
daughter.
yeah. They don't
Yeah.
have that fucking like crazy
dog.
element to the story, right?
Oh my god, that's like a whole nother movie. Like we can make it like some kind of like bestiality.
No, we're not going there.
Okay.
It's a lot of
Okay,
hypnosis,
let me-
James.
you
How steps can we
ahead.
get? Just kidding.
Dude, like watch all those followers like unfollow, man.
He's like, all right, I'm out. That's the
Okay,
last
okay,
straw.
We're down to
okay.
49.
Sorry, Terry.
Derail you.
I forgot what else I was gonna say. Yeah, I guess just I wonder if this movie was just made a few years later, it wouldn't have all that cheesy shit I hate so much, and like the music, like you mentioned, and the CG. Like it wasn't bad in this movie. It worked because everything else around it was so goddamn good that it just felt like a good like kind of like humor, like or an added humor to like the whole thing, where it wasn't like super fucking like this crazy dark and like serious or whatever. So I liked that, but what else is there? I don't know. You guys said a lot already. Can I fumble? I guess I'm with Jay, like, or I don't know. I already forgot everything. I'm fucking drunk. Whoever said watch it drink on the second viewing for sure. Like the first one, pretty intense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
It's a
want to be
common
super
trend.
faded for that. Yeah.
Common trend.
Yeah.
And I really want to watch this movie again because it's probably going to elevate it even more, like the second viewing. Very excited about that. Yeah, with all that said, I'm around an 8.6.
Okay.
Yeah.
8.6
Sure.
out of 10. James, last but not least, where are you at?
Okay. Can you fumble? I was in Alonso's mind space. I thought definitely we can't maybe, but Adrian, you convinced me otherwise. This is one of those movies that it's just like it's a good movie when you can go in and just relax and the story just kind of unfolds for you. You're not going to have to jump through any hoops to try to understand the story, even though it is that complex. And
Yeah.
you could also even it's a type of movie that you can have fun watching like that with a couple bros or your family or whatever.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Oh,
You
no.
know, you could write a fucking thesis on this thing. You know,
Yeah.
this could be like your college essay. Like, that's
Yeah.
what's so like fun about this movie. That's what's so like great about this movie, and it's such a treat going along with it. Like you guys were talking about, you don't really need the great reveal, but I think it does just make it that much better, and it's such a treat to watch it all play out. Like you see like the hypnotist shit is a little wonky. Of course, hypnotist stuff is like kind of like okay, but
Yeah.
you get to see in the mind of Woo Jin, and you see how fucking crazy and the lengths that he went to. It's just so diabolical. Like it's so divisive. It's so weird just to see how somebody was so obsessed about this. And yeah, you get that sadness. Like he lost the love of his life, which just so happened to be his sister. And it fucking kind of hurts and it kind of feels weird. It's such a
Yeah.
strange ass movie
Yeah.
that makes you think these things. But yeah, some things that kind of weren't as good as I remember them. The fighting scene, which is as iconic as it is, I'm like, okay, it's not as good as I thought it used to be. When I first watched it, I was like, okay, this is really fucking cool. Watching it again, I'm like, okay, like most movies do this, but because of this movie, you know, like so I recognize that, and then also I agree with Alonso. Oldboy ran so that way Parasite could fly. Like
Mm.
this opens up the world of like international cinema for me, and
Yeah.
just just a good movie. It's hard not to give it a 9 out of 10.
Nice. 9 out of 10 coming out from James. That brings us just under the marker for the Fumbler Hall of
Ooh, I'm
Fame.
Are you
sorry.
serious?
An
Are
I
you
should have thrown
serious?
8.95.
another
Fuck,
note.
should I have done it?
What
Should
is
have done
it?
like 9.5? Like what the
It
Was
fuck?
was
it
an 8.95.
Oh,
9.5?
Right
I
What?
gave
underneath.
it a 9.1.
I was
We
teetering on 8.6 or 7 too.
How the
Yeah.
fuck? How in the
no, but
hell?
I'm okay.
Nonetheless, a
What is
great
on the
film.
Hall of Fame? Can we at least just like what is currently on the
We'll
Hall
talk
of
about that in the after show. We need to figure out because there's
No
a
spoilers.
lot.
Watch the episodes. No, I'm just
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch the
Fame?
episodes.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the after show.
Okay. All right. All right. Oh, hey, one last scene that just occurred to me when James was talking. Um, do you remember at towards the end when Odesu shows up in Lee Woo-jin's apartment and he knows what the deal is, right? And Lee Woo-jin is changing in that crazy ass closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking in the mirror. Do you remember that scene where they're both in frame? The camera's from the perspective of the mirror, and there's like a double mirror effect going on where
Yeah.
like, and so like, it's like there's an extreme zoom, like
Mhm.
Yeah.
on Odesu,
Yeah.
and then it's like pan out, and there's like this weird, like it's from the perspective of the mirror, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
That was one of those like,
there's tons of mirror imagery in the whole thing. I
All
forgot
over.
I forgot to talk about the mirror imagery. Like he punches the mirror when he's watching
When he's spying on the incestuous.
incest. Bitch is watching
Yeah.
herself for some weird reason. It's just like
And
what is wrong
sees
with it?
him in the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
I remember like
Yeah.
a phone call with like half of their faces, like or something.
Yeah.
That was cool.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of mirrored shots, but
Well, and there's just a lot of reflective things like Daesu's best friend gets
Dude,
killed
I was gonna
with the
say,
CD.
shout
That's like
out to
also
that guy, dude.
That was intense.
which
Feels
is
bad.
also like a
Movie,
CD kind of a
guys,
mirror. It's just crazy.
if we haven't convinced you yet to watch this movie, then I don't know what
If
the
you've
fuck.
gotten
I
this
just
far, yeah.
I just don't understand how it didn't make the Hall of Fame. That is
You
insane to
only
me.
rated it
Can I
a 10. That
amend
was
my
right on
fucking?
the
Can I
bottom thing.
amend my rating?
I don't
I
think
don't
Can I
think
juice
you
the fucking
can.
rating to like
It's
get
gotta
into
be
the Hall
what
of
you
Fame?
feel in the
It's
moment,
instant,
man.
Yeah.
God
bro.
damn, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't grade on a curve. I don't grade on a curve, dude.
Well, we do,
Like I don't do that. Okay.
man. All right, guys. So I just want to thank everyone who has been watching us live on Twitch. We have hit a monumentous moment. We have finally hit 50 followers on Twitch.
Cheers
we
to that.
are right there. We need to apply for our affiliate, which is awesome. You guys can start subscribing to us. More into that later on. And again, you're going to hear more about that on all of our social media, which can be found at filmfumblers.com. Next week, we are going to be recording our episode on, what is it?
Florida
Project.
Florida Project. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a fun one. Willem Dafoe. I'm always excited to see anything he's in. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight, and have a great rest of your night. And thank you to Alonso, our special guest.
Yes.
You can find him on yourmissionpod.com. Is that right?
Yep. Yourmissionpod.com.
Yeah, he is
twitch.tv/yourmissionpod.
Yeah, hosts another podcast in our network that is entirely about music. And so yeah, follow him there. Find all of that information, yourmissionpod.com. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Have a great night. Cheers.
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 Later.